Hey everybody, Model Man here, and it is several days later, and the bases are looking pretty good. I got Vader over there on his. But what we're concerned about right now is getting Deep Space Nine on it. And one of the things that I had been delaying on for a decision was whether I was going to light up the base itself or not. And what I think I'm going to do is yes, but not the way you might think. Originally I was thinking LED tape running around the outsides of each of these sections facing inward. There's a curvature to it which would throw it off and it could get really wonky. You could do a small strip or two. Then I thought about just looping a little bit in the middle, and then I realized, why bother with all that when I could go with a single 10mm LED sticking up from the bottom straight in the middle. It'll light everything up. And I'm thinking maybe if I come across like a Federation symbol that I can print out, I'll just tape that in the middle and it'll look kind of cool. Maybe. So to that end, I need to drill into this fine finish here, and yeah, it is pretty fine. That's going to be a really nice reflection base. I always thought black was kind of cheesy until now, but it's kind of mirror-like, really. Very nice. So anyhow, I did a starter hole right there, and I do not want to crack the finish, so I'm hoping that by protecting it with just a little bit of masking tape, that will keep everything safe. Oh, and of course putting tape on it means you lose your starter hole position. There we go. Do this nice and slow. I'd say we're done. Last time I did a lot of drilling for the power switches on these two bases I've been making. I just did it kind of in the open, where all the dust and everything could go anywhere, because I figured, what the heck, it's the floor. I'll just clean it off later. But it does make a really big mess, and I don't feel like making a mess today because I could really use a clean workspace in the coming days. So I realized, what could I do about that? Get a box. This happens to be an old motherboard box that I kept around. Very handy. And of course, the other thing you're going to need is an old phone book that you can drill into without worry at all. So we'll pull the tape off here. Relatively clean, certainly clean enough. The idea here now is to simply drop this LED in place. Resistor it from behind, and yeah, this is pretty much going to be done. And of course I do have a little bit of wiring here to do as well. So sweet. So I was just placing this LED into place and bending the legs down so they'd fit into the alcove here. Negative is going to go off this way, and what I'm thinking is it's just going to tap into I'll have to run this down first so it touches that, because it won't quite reach all the way back up there. So yeah, I'll run this down there, then I'll run a negative lead back up again. Actually, I don't have to run a negative lead back up again, because this guy here is going to be more than long enough to reach down in there. So yeah, actually, we're all set on that front, if any of you followed that when I was just saying it all. So what I was just thinking is, rather than run the resistor from the end of this leg over to the output of the switch, why not run it to before that? That means whenever this is plugged in, this one LED would always be on. This switch would simply turn the station on. So that could be an interesting effect. One of the things I've been thinking is that with this stand here, is that if I ever find a Federation logo that looks nice, I'll print it out at a particular size and I'll just rest it on top or glue it onto the top down there. And if that's always on, It'll look really nice in evenings, and at what, 10 milliamps, 20 milliamps, the energy cost is essentially negligible. A single 60-watt light bulb for an hour, even 5 minutes, I bet, is more than 24 hours a day of this little guy here. That's if it's plugged in at all. You can always turn that off by unplugging it. So this took center stage unnecessarily. So we'll get that back there. So back to this guy here. I wanted to go over all this now because I don't want to move the camera from the new stand, and it'll only take a few seconds to solder this into place, so let me go and do that. And just a few seconds later, blue. Blue? Blue? No blue? Oh, I gotta do the negative leg still. So now here we go. So positive leg attached to the resistor, attached to the input, so it should turn on when we power it up, and the negative leg is attached to the negative power coming from the back. The LED is pretty much just held in place loosely, and a 1, 2, 3. Hey, check it out. Nice. And that's a nice look looking through the top. I guess I'll have to take the camera off here. So I probably could have gone with a 5mm straw hat, I bet. So it's a little strong in the middle. It's a little weak at the ends. But for a quick test, it's alright. Next up, what I gotta do is, once I'm absolutely sure that I'm ready to put the whole station on, is I'll take these wires, trim them all down really close. Then from there, I'll kind of lift up like this, hopefully. Actually, maybe I should almost glue it down first. Stick these wires through as I push it down for the final time. Yeah, I think that'll be the way to go. So, actually, what we'll do here is run a bead of glue all around the edges of the bottom. Let it sit for a few seconds. Then, feed these two wires down there. Well, we'll fix that first, get that guy out of the way. Then gently place into place, and worry about the consequences of how the wires line up exactly afterwards. So the only final question is, do I want to sand this LED down and hopefully disperse it a little? I'd be doing it in place. I don't feel like desoldering it after all that, though I suppose it wouldn't be too difficult to do that. I'd spray it with some Rust-Oleum frosted glass, but I don't want to go through the smell process of dealing with that. Yeah, the soldering iron's still on. I'm going to unsolder this. I'll file it down with this guy right here in my new sanding box and drilling box and dust box.